Good morning, everyone. I hope you're having a great day, and I hope that you are, enjoying your time at home and keeping up with your work. Now, today we're going to start talking about the human side of geography and specifically like how people are both affected by their environments and how they affect their environments. So, while in the past few lectures we've talked about mostly how you have how the actual Earth itself is a huge factor of geography. One of the biggest factors is one we've touched on a little bit, but we haven't discussed too much, and that's the human side. Okay, so in 1950, just a kind of little background here. 1950, New York was the only only metropolitan area in the world with a population over 10 million. Now, that's not that long ago. People who were alive back then. Probably you do. And by 1994, you had 14 world cities that had populations greater than 10 million. And 4 of those cities were in economically developed countries. That means only 40%, no, not even less than that. More like 30% of those cities were in countries that we call economically developed. We'll talk more about that later. But the rest were all in countries that were developing, meaning that they were not very large. Like they were probably overpopulated, very poor countries. And so by 2015, so this is a little, outdated. The experts predict that the population of the following cities will exceed 20 million. So you have Tokyo, Mumbai, Lagos, Shanghai, Jakarta, Sao Paulo, and Karachi. Okay. Now, a lot of those are South America and Asia, or almost all of those. And those are all areas that are rapidly growing for various reasons. But sadly, of all of those cities, the only one that is economically developed is Tokyo. Now, about 6.2 billion people now live on Earth, though that number is rapidly climbing. Really, this is a little bit outdated, but it was we reached 7 billion several years ago, and I think we're expected to hit 8 billion pretty soon. And people inhabit about 30% of this planet's land, so there's not that many people. Now, such rapid growth was not always the case. And if you were to look in your book, you would find that, there's a population growth where it just skyrocketed over the last 100 years. But from basically, from 1800 to 1950, the Earth's population doubled. And then by 2000, it soared to more than 6 billion. We're expected to be past 9 billion by 2050. Now, global population is increasing. Now, this is also known as the study of population growth is known as the study of demography. So meaning that you are growing, people who study that process, are demographers. Okay. Now, global population is growing rapidly because birth rates have not declined as fast as death rates. The death rate is the number of deaths per year for every 1,000 people. So every 1,000 people, that's how many die in that time. That's your death rate. The birth rate is the number of births per year for every 1,000 people. So scientists or demographers have calculated the natural increase or growth rate of a population as the difference between an area's birth rate and its death rate. Now, population growth occurs at different rates in various parts of the world. Over the past 200 years, death rates have gone down in many places as a result of improved health care, more abundant food supplies, advances in technology, and better living conditions. Now, in many wealthy industrialized countries, a declining death rate has been accompanied by a low birth rate. These countries have reached what is known as zero population growth, in which the birth rate and death rate are equal. When this balance occurs, a country's population does not grow. In many countries in Asia, Africa, and Latin America, however, the birth rate is high. Families in these regions traditionally are large because of cultural beliefs about marriage, family, and the value of children. For example, a husband and wife in a rural agricultural area may choose to have several children who will help farm the land. A high number of births combined with low death rates to greatly increase population growth in these areas. As a result, the doubling time, or the number of years that it takes a population to double in size, has been reduced to only 25 years in some parts of Asia, Africa, and Latin America. In contrast, the average doubling time of a wealthy industrialized country can be more than 300 years. So that's huge. That growth is really very, very fast. So as you can see on this here, like it's just been steadily going up, and it's going to keep doing that unless something were to change. Now, rapid population growth presents many challenges to the global community. As the number of people increases, so does the difficulty of producing enough food to feed them. Fortunately, since 1950, world food production has risen on all continents except Africa. Because so many people in various parts of Africa need food, warfare, severe weather conditions that ruin crops can bring widespread famine. In addition, populations that grow rapidly use resources more quickly than populations that do not grow as rapidly. Some countries face shortages of water, housing, and clothing, for example. Rapid population growth strains these limited resources. Another concern is that the world's population is unevenly distributed by age, with the majority of some countries' populations being infants and young children who cannot contribute to world or food production. While some experts are pessimistic about the long-term effects of rapid population growth, others are optimistic that as the number of humans increases, the levels of technology and creativity also will rise. For example, scientists continue to study and develop ways to boost agricultural productivity, and fertilizers can improve crop yields. Irrigation systems can help increase the amount of land available for farming. And then you have new varieties of plants of wheat and rice that have been created to withstand severe conditions and yield more food. Now, in the late 1900s, some countries in Europe began to experience what is known as negative population growth, in which the annual death rate exceeds the annual birth rate. So Hungary and Germany, for example, show growth rates of negative 0.4 and negative 0.1, respectively. This situation has economic consequences in a different form because caused by these high rates. In countries with negative population growth, it is difficult to find enough workers to keep the economy going, and labor must be recruited from other countries, often by encouraging immigration or granting temporary work permits. Although the use of foreign labor has helped countries with negative growth rates maintain their levels of economic activity, it also creates tensions between the host population and the communities of newcomers. Okay. Now, not only do population growth rates vary among the Earth's regions, but the planet's population distribution, or the pattern of human settlement, is uneven as well. Population distribution is related to the Earth's geography, and only about 30% of the Earth's surface is made up of land, and much of that land is inhospitable, meaning a lot of people just can't live in certain places, like high mountain peaks, barren deserts, frozen tundra, pretty much make human activity very difficult, if not outright impossible. So almost everyone on Earth lives in a relatively small portion of the Earth's land, a little less than 1/3. And most people live where fertile soil, available water, and a climate without harsh extremes can help make human life sustainable. Now, of all the continents, Europe and Asia are the most densely populated, with Asia alone containing more than 60% of the world's people. And throughout the world, the populations are highly concentrated. Many people live in metropolitan areas or cities. And today, most of the people in Europe, North America, and Australia actually live around these urban areas. So as you can see, here on this map, most of the highly dense areas are closer to water, more around cities, and that's part of what helps create this density. And you can see, in the United States, most of the people in the United States live in the east, whereas, other than pockets, around Seattle, Portland, Sacramento, Los Angeles, not too mmany areas where there's a lot of people. I mean, here you got Las Vegas, or that's Vegas. This is Reno. No, that's Vegas. I'm sorry. And Reno, where a lot of people live in Nevada, but not really too many people live there otherwise. Now, geographers determine how crowded a country or region is by measuring population density, the average number of people living in a square mile or a square kilometer of land. To determine population density in a country, geographers divide the total population of the country by its total land area. Population density varies widely from country to country. Canada has a pretty low population density of about 8 people per square mile, but it has wide open spaces and the opportunity to choose between living in a city or, a rural country area. Bangladesh, on the other hand, has one of the highest population densities in the world, about 2,600 people per square mile. In Bangladesh, even the rural areas are more crowded than many of the world's cities. That's kind of crazy when you think about it. Now, countries that have populations of nearly the same size do not necessarily have similar population densities. For example, Zambia and Belgium have about the same number of people, about 10 million. And with a smaller land area, Belgium has 881 people per square mile, whereas Zambia has only 37. So big difference there. And because population density is an average, it does not account for uneven population distributions within a country, which is pretty common. In Egypt, for example, overall population density is 186 people per square mile. But in reality, 99% of the people live within 20 miles of the Nile River. The rest of Egypt is desert. So some geographers prefer to describe a country's population density in terms of land that can be used to support the population rather than the land area. And when Egypt's population density is measured this way, it has about 5,000 or closer to 6,000 people per square mile. Now, as far as people are constantly on the move for better jobs, healthcare, education, they're constantly trying to make their lives better. And one form of this is migration. This is the movement of people from place, or basically this is the movement from people place to place. We're always moving in great numbers, with some people moving from city to city or suburb to suburb, and a lot of people migrating from rural areas to cities. The resulting growth of city populations have brought about migration, and the changes that come with this increase is called urbanization. So when people move to cities, it's urbanization. Now, it has many causes. The primary cause is the desire of rural people to find jobs and a better life. They're just trying to look for more opportunity. Now, rural populations have grown too, but the amount of land that can be farmed has not increased to meet the growing number of people. So as a result, many rural migrants find urban jobs in manufacturing or service industries like tourism. Now, about half of the world's people live in cities, which is a far higher percentage than pretty much ever before. And between 1960 and 2000, the population of Mexico City rose from about 5 million to 18 million. Other cities in Latin America, as well as cities in Asia and Africa, have seen similar growth. Some of these cities contain a large part of their country's entire population. For example, Argentina, one-third of the people in Argentina live in Buenos Aires. Now, population movement also occurs between countries. Some people immigrating from one country from the country of their birth move to another. This is called immigration. And they are known as immigrants, EMI, in their homeland, and are called immigrants, IMMI, in their new country. And over the past 40 years, millions of people have left Africa, Asia, and Latin America to find jobs in the wealthier countries of Europe, North America, and Australia. And now some of these poor people were forced to flee their countries because of wars, food shortages, and other problems, and they are known as refugees, or people who flee another country to escape persecution or disaster. Okay? Now, again, this is a pretty common occurrence all throughout the world, and it's been a pretty hot topic in the United States in recent years, especially when talking about things like the border wall. And, it's very controversial at best. So it's just something to think about, is that these are not issues that you're just going to learn about in class. These are things that you can see daily. So I want you to keep that in mind as you go through the rest of this course. Okay, I hope to have a good rest of the day, and I will see you all tomorrow.